This is Appetite for Distortion.
And welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode 241. My name is Brando. Second episode of the new year, 2021. Appreciate you hanging out wherever you are listening. You are enjoying this podcast. Thanks for pressing play. Today we have two guests. Later on for the Appetite for Discovery segment, we will be speaking with Jason Hall from Western Addiction, a great punk rock band from San Francisco. But coming up right now, a lot of you are also very excited to hear from Jeff or Jefferson. I'll see which one he prefers. Angell from Walking Papers. So without further ado, Jeff.
Hello, is this Brandon?
This is. Is this Jeff?
Jeffing. This is he. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Do you prefer Jeff or Jefferson, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I come by both. Jeff's a lot less syllables.
That's true. But when I say Jefferson, I think of, I don't know if you watched Married with Children back in the day, but Jefferson was his cool neighbor with Marcy. And he...
I didn't know that, but
okay,
you know, I was named after Thomas Jefferson, which is not as cool as the Married with Children neighbor.
I gotcha. Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to educate you on 90s sitcoms that are no longer relevant.
I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for calling in today. And are you calling in, if you don't mind me asking, guessing from the area code, you calling from Seattle? Hometown?
Yeah.
Nice.
I am.
Very cool. I hope to visit one day. I have my Sean Kemp jersey in the closet right now. I'm just trying to buy some.
Oh.
Yeah, get some brownie points.
There you go. There you go. That's him and Dale Ellis. That was when Gary Payton. That was the dream team right there.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, we could talk about the Sonics, I guess, next time you're on. We're here to talk about, and I
more relevant. More relevant.
I know, more relevant. What am I doing here?
Yeah, man, you're taking me right back. Right? That was the heyday of Seattle. You had the Sonics there, and we had Married with Children and grunge.
Oh, funny. Yeah. Should we talk about the Civil War and dinosaurs also?
That happened at the same time, right?
Right. Let's talk about the future, but thankfully not too far in the future. February 5th, that is the highly anticipated new album is coming out, The Light Below. And you've been putting out singles, kind of slowly teasing it. And I just got finished watching your mini movie, I guess, Divine Intervention, stood up at the gates of heaven. Can you tell me, like, because I got to imagine that 2020 threw a kink in the plans. Like, how long has this been in the works, this new record?
Well, some of the songs we had started to write before, and I'm kind of weird like that. I'll have a song that's maybe hanging around 10 years, and I just don't finish it here for one reason or there and there. So they're all kind of brewing. And not necessarily like I like one more than another, but they just kind of hang around, you know, and you just decide which time to pick one up and what's working. So some songs were around before 2020 for sure, and then we started recording this before 2020. But then, you know, all the COVID lockdown and all that kind of stuff. So we had it, you know, kind of brewing before then. You know, it's kind of funny. Like last time the record came out, everybody was like, you know, how come there's no songs about, you know, Trump? You know, and I was like, well, you know, sometimes it takes a year or so for these records to get brewing and happening. You know, you make the record, you write the songs, and you start recording them, and then there's the whole process before the release and all that. You know, so really you're looking at something from 2 years ago almost, from when it was conceived by the time it hit. You know, and at this point, as we're promoting this record, we're already writing new songs and working on the new stuff. So it's just kind of the cycle of how things go. You know?
Oh, nice. I like that. So then not where did as a premise, but where did in time did the title Divine Intervention come in? Like, what's the I guess a lot of the context or the content, I should say, of the album. So is it a theme, Divine Intervention? If you can kind of tell us some of the topics, I guess you cover lyrically.
Well, I think that there's some people kind of have maybe there's like a learned helpless thing that goes on, and I think that we're all kind of, expecting some force to step in and make a change where, sometimes you might be better off just to take action yourself,
Sure.
Or sometimes there's nothing that can be done, and it's just, you got to accept, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, or,
I know
they're just going to happen.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I kind of get to where, the divine intervention, I guess, there's been a few times I think in my world where I was like, sometimes with God or with cops, you're like, where were you when I needed you? But, there's never one around when you need them. But then, at the same time, what do I know? Maybe it's all part of the, some kind of Buddhist Taoist thing that, all these hardships are here to teach us lessons. But I think at one point or another, we're all like, why?
I know. It's like when you're in it, it's like, why is this happening to me? And then you look back, it's like, oh, that's why that happened. It sucked when it happened, but it's like, would I be here? I know we're getting all zen and everything. Would I be here if I didn't experience these bad things beforehand? So, I mean, I got to imagine this kind of goes into, because we all identify with that feeling, but I guess here, as we're talking about the music, does that play into the band Walking Papers? Because it was just a few years ago, and I got to be honest, because I know as a GNR themed podcast, I knew my audience would know Walking Papers, but I was pleasantly surprised, and we'll get to some fan questions about how many people are just so excited, because it's not that long ago you were named Seattle's best rock band by the New York Times, which is nothing to sniff at, but you're still kind of making a name for yourself at the same time. Do you take that approach, I guess, as we were talking about divine intervention, as you're with Walking Papers?
No, I don't think those kind of things. I look at, with well, it's funny is that you asked about the getting all zen about it. Is like, I actually think, to me, music is one of those things that's like I don't know what the proper word for it. It's sacred. It's like, it's not something, if you put too much, it's not something that you should put pressure on, in my opinion, of like, of asking, why didn't this happen or why does that happen? It's like, it's a kind of a gift. And I think that if people put too much pressure on it, they lose their passion. The passion gets stolen and it becomes a product and not a passion project. And I think, it's great. You plant these seeds in your yard and you want to see them grow into something. But if you have expectations of, music can be pretty good, setting yourself up for disappointment. I guess it's the way that I look at it. So with the music stuff, I'm really just grateful for everything that happens. And even, like you're saying about the songs, to me, the songs are kind of like, spending time with my own thoughts. I do think there's some zen kind of meditative qualities to pursuing an idea song, that I think all the gifts are there. So if you get to run around the world playing it for other people, or if other people enjoy it, or if you make a couple of dollars off of it, then it's all that stuff's frosting on the cake, I suppose.
I like that.
But we might be putting frosting on a burnt cake if the intentions for making the cake in the first place aren't for the right reasons. So I try to not put those pressures. I mean, I would be lying if I said that I don't think about some big things sometimes, or if you see some other band that you think kind of sucks and you're like, why are they getting this? Or, but it's like any of that kind of thinking, it's just setting yourself up to be bummed out.
Yeah. And I like that outlook, and that I that's something else I identify with you, and I'm sure many do as well. And I guess the reason I ask is because it's an overused phrase, the Seattle sound, but I want to use maybe coin a new phrase, the Seattle, the Seattle thought process, the Seattle mood. It's because the reason I'm going down this path is because your insight, the way you're your personality is, it's like many of your famous friends that you've played with, like Duff McKagan or Mike McCready. I feel like I'm listening to almost like an interview with them as well. Dean DeLeo, who I believe worked on this record. But I want to know, is there something about the Seattle psyche? There you go. Is there something about the Seattle psyche that why it's just like you guys are so salt of the earth, and yet you're also so talented? Like, how does that work? You're also humble, and it's like, yeah, I'm awesome, but whatever. Is there something
I don't
in the
know.
water there?
I think that I just definitely grew up. I definitely, grew up listening to those people and their kind of attitude about it or whatever. But I think that, I don't know. I mean, I think there was a certain time where even, in the Seattle bands, it was like a little bit of a, they rejected praise. Now I ain't that fan. I think it's great if somebody likes what we're doing,
Right.
and I'm, and if people are into it, I'm excited about that. But I think that it's important to kind of maintain some humility about this kind of stuff and a sense of humor, because it's kind of ridiculous, the whole idea that someone can run around playing music and stuff and having people listen to. There's a lot to laugh at, with the way that some of these things go.
Yeah, and there's a sense of humor to it that the Seattle psyche has, is the way of looking at things and not taking it too seriously. I got to take. I'm trying to take a page from it. I'm a neurotic New Yorker. I'm on medication, man. I wish I was kidding, but it's like I gotta, so much anxiety. So I admire, not just musically. I admire people with your mindset. It's harder for people like myself to just maybe not overanalyze things. So that's something definitely that I admire about you as well.
Well, thank you. I say they think, take the work seriously, but not yourself. I think that's a pretty good motto to live by. But don't get me confused as someone that doesn't have a bunch of anxiety, because I do. And I actually think that the music actually helps me work through that, and I think that that's, writing. It's something about writing songs, and just sitting down and, playing guitar and working on a thing, or going to practice, or when you're playing music, it is super meditative. Like I said earlier, it's time that, you have to be focused on what you're doing. Otherwise you're going to trip up, and therefore it removes you from the worry of other things. Even if the song is, a sentimental song, or it's focused on maybe even working out a negative idea, it's still an escape from, the bullshit we see every day.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I just had the Escape. What was it? What did it clock in at 12 minutes or something? The video. So if you'll explain it better than I can. It's the first two tracks, or the first two singles rather, that you made into a 12-minute video. And I guess before you talk about that, because I'm reading the press release here, I'm trying to do my research like a professional. Did Dean from STP play some of the guitar work on Divine Intervention? How did that? So if you can tell me about that.
He's playing the solo on there.
Oh, wow.
We did a tour with them a couple, I guess, a year or two, 2019, I guess. So,
Okay.
And on the tour, we became, I kind of knew him, met him a few times before that, so we were friendly, and that's why we got invited on the tour. But then after being on the tour with these guys for 4 weeks or through Europe, we kind of had a lot of time to hang out backstage and really kind of tighten the bond a bit. And those guys are great guys, so funny and so open and accommodating. And then I've always been a fan of his playing. I thought he has a cool swagger to his style, especially like on the Tiny Music record. I really liked his, it kind of had a Joe Perry kind of thing to it. And so when we were making this record, I could just get tired of my own licks,
Okay.
I know where I'm going sometimes, and I just like to hear how a different guy would approach it.
That's cool.
And so I just asked him, hey, you want to play on a track? And he was like, sure. So I sent it over to him, and he just laid down something. It was, it was great right off the top. And then on the second song, we're kind of dueling back and forth on some stuff, like a question answer kind of thing. And so he graced us with his presence there. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think, he can play him and his brother can play stuff that's way beyond anything you hear them playing. They're just also tasteful with what they're playing, so that they try to, play what they think serves a song. But I mean, even his brother Robert on bass can sit around and play like, jazz, crazy Django Reinhardt stuff on the guitar. I mean, they're both really phenomenal, but then they serve the song, which is, I think, what is even a bigger strength for them to keep themselves from playing too much.
And I encourage people to go to Walking Papers, your YouTube channel, to watch the video, because I mean, there's nothing I could say to describe the back and forth guitars between you and Dean, but the video itself is just super cool. It's just like, I don't know, I feel like I'm watching like Sin City or something like that, or like an old detective kind of show. I liked it. So we were talking about like an escape before. It was definitely a nice escape visually and audio wise. So it was cool, man. I gotta ask. Of course, no. Thanks for putting it out. I mean, this is what we need now. I mean, it's not like the whatever ailed 2020 ended when 2021 came. I mean, a lot of us are still at home looking for things to do. There are a lot of people that, that depend on an escape. So however we get it, the good kind of escape, of course. So I guess I want to ask, is it the same approach when you said why you reached out to Dean? Did you want to hear, someone else's spin on it? Because I don't know the history, I guess, because I'm assuming you and Duff McKagan have been friends for a while, him being being from Seattle as well. But if you can talk, I guess, a little bit about him being in the band, and because he's been doing a lot of collaborations. Do you foresee him, collaborating with you guys again in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I always do that. We're friendly. I mean, we were just out riding motorcycles the other day.
Nice.
I mean, he's busy doing what he's doing, and we recorded a little bit of stuff recently or something, just goofing around, but we haven't really pursued it into something that was like for a song or nothing. It was more definitely it was more like an excuse to hang out.
Right on.
but I doubt it'll ever see the light of day. But we had and he's got a new studio up here in Seattle that he had bought. So I know he's working on some stuff up there with his, with whatever. I'm not sure. I don't want to assume where it's going to go, but I know he's been up there and being busy and doing that kind of stuff. And we're always friendly, but of course I think he also, even when we were in the band, it's like, I think a lot of people look at the situation. It's like I was, and maybe don't have the same clarity. To me, I was always thought it was kind of a bummer that he had all that work in Guns N' Roses and wasn't able to be out there and be that guy, So the fact that they put things together, although personally, he opened a lot of doors for me, and those doors are still open, and I'm really grateful for that. But I was never I was like celebrating the fact that they were getting back together so that he can go play and do what he, get all the, have all those great things happen for him. I even feel the same way. Sometimes it's like there's a local band that I don't even really care about, or maybe I don't even like their music. I'm always grateful for them to get opportunities or to see them have success, even if they're not my cup of tea. So with his thing, I'm being a Guns N' Roses fan myself, and also, having a personal relationship with the guy, I was stoked to see that, he could get back into the thing that he was most known for and get the credit that he deserves and give the world what they want to see. So unfortunately, on the opposite side of that coin is I had to figure out how I was going to keep my band rolling. Right. And so Ben just turned on the bass keys on his left hand, and then we started hitting it, so we've done that before. So even before, there's been times in Walking Papers where Duff was like, hey man, I got to go do this thing. And we had shows booked and we still went and played the shows. We just played without him, and then Ben picked up the bass lines on the keyboard. So certain songs aren't the same, but other songs are different. But the same all the time gets a little boring in my world. So
right on. Yeah. That's because you're an artist. You know, it's you're not just out there just as a like one of those robotic bears in Chuck E. Cheese. You're an artist. I don't know why I went there. Another weird out of date analogy.
No, I love that. I actually would like to have, if I could get a whole band of those guys, that would be amazing.
Oh man, take that on tour. I love it. Hey, I said this. This is something that I would used to say, but I guess now, I mean, hopefully Dr. Fauci is right that we're going to have concerts come back in the fall of this year, but I could see the Walking Papers open up for GNR. I mean, that would be an amazing show. Just incredible.
Yeah, they got a lot of people lining up for that gig. But you know what? We had a lot of fun on the road anytime I was with us. So
yeah.
It's kind of crazy, to see those bands. Sometimes if they open up for them, and I'm seeing these bands that open up in the morning on some of those shows, there's not a lot of people there.
Yeah, that's good.
They get 80. The people are showing up at time to see them play, and sometimes if you're a band, you might play if you're playing to 2,000 people leaking into an arena during the day. That's kind of, I don't know if I'd want to tour with them just for the fun of hanging out with them.
That's
but
fair.
Sometimes I would rather play to 600 people crammed in a sweaty club than to 2,000 people in a huge arena that are filing in and not paying attention. And this is from a guy who has done it a few times.
Right on. No, I totally hear you. I guess because when GNR when they were last on tour, I liked how they were getting creative with their opening acts and exposing, maybe. Yeah. But I totally hear what you're saying. I don't want to keep you forever, but I want to make sure I get some comments and questions in to you.
Sure.
This is a lot of compliments. This is from Jason Boulevard. Just said very cool, talented dude. Randy Botello said I saw Walking Papers at the Boston House of Blues. Good stuff. Arrow Gem said he is cool. He told me he liked my tattoo because I'm sure you remember that. This is from Satya. He said, awesome.
That was the one. I saw his tattoo. It was a tattoo of a Levi's logo on his rear pocket.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Because that would be memorable.
That's what I've been thinking about getting now. The pocket of the Levi's back there on my Easter.
I support that. You have my support behind that. But pun intended. This is from Satya. I said, awesome. I saw the Walking Papers open for Miles Kennedy in December 2018. And they were amazing. Let me get to some actual questions. Luigi wants to know what are the main musical influences for you?
Well, funny enough, my first one was probably the Police, and then I moved on to Black Sabbath, and then of course I think that some of the early post-punk bands like the Cure and the Cult. Stuff like that. And then, of course, Guns N' Roses, when they came out, had a huge influence. And then about that time's when I started noticing the Seattle bands, which all had a big influence. And then as I grew a little older, I dug deeper and kind of found the best, some of my heroes like, Tom Waits, Nick Cave, Bob Dylan, and then all the classics, of course, The Doors and Zeppelin and the Stones and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of my favorites.
Right on. Dana says, oh my God, super stoked about this. This is a great band that deserves more recognition. Nick Wilson wants to know your favorite gig or your favorite place to play.
Favorite gig would be pretty hard. There's a lot of special ones. And I don't know, there's really cool clubs in certain areas, like in Brussels has a really cool club. Hungary has a club in Budapest where you're playing on a boat, which is kind of special. But we're making every gig special, and hopefully that every venue, we're turning into our living room. I guess that's one way to say it. But I mean, there's been certain venues to where you're always like, man, I want to play. I want to play the Whiskey. So if you're playing sold out at the Whiskey, you're pretty stoked about that, or just because all your heroes played there. But then sometimes you get there and it's kind of it's closer to a slop sink in a kitchen than it is to the glamorous event you thought it was. But
rose-colored glasses. It's not what you thought it was going to be in your dreams.
Yeah, but there is definitely, there are milestones of like checking those boxes off of. I've always wanted to play the 100 Club in London, and then, when you check that off. It is kind of special, and it's cool. I've been involved in some cool events. Like I got to do the Mad Season tribute thing with those guys. I did a few different things where we've met some special people have come backstage to shows that we've done, and and so they played in Berlin one time, and I'm standing in a circle with Tony Iommi, Chris Cornell, Joe Perry, and myself, and I'm like, what the hell? How the hell did I get in this conversation? So some cool things like that have happened through the years, but that make the gig special. But I think all the gigs, they do become a blur, but it's like the best blur ever.
I like that. Name of the next album, Best Blur Ever. Although people might think that's like the best of Blur, so you can't do that.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Thank you so much for your time today, Jeff. I hope we get to do this again. Again, the album that's coming out February the 5th. I think it's gonna be it's from what I've heard, because there's three singles out right now, I believe, for The Light Below. Yeah. Okay, because again, if you want to knock out 2 out of the 3 out of the way, check out that 12-minute video for Divine Intervention that features Dean from STP on it, and it's just awesome. So you're awesome. I hope we get again. Like I said, we can do this again, and stay safe, as they say now, going forward, and you just have yourself a great day. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Likewise. Take it easy.
You got it. Was it me, or did you feel like when he was talking about Duff and his studio and what he's working on there, that he almost spilled the beans about Guns N' Roses? I'm not saying that's what happened, but there was a part of me that felt that's what happened. And I'm just curious if any of you were like, and I just didn't want to probe for any information. I don't want to get him in trouble. If indeed that is in fact the case, and no, I did not ask him off the air. I have no idea. I want to leave that to be a mystery, because I'm a weirdo. Anyway, we move forward. Actually, we have the segment I like to call Appetite for Discovery, where we talk about a band or an artist that may not have a direct connection to our Guns N' Roses world. Like Jeff obviously connected to Duff, 6 Degrees of GNR Bacon, very, very strong. But here, Jason Hall from the band Western Addiction, great, great band. And we're going to talk to him, and we're going to talk about Guns N' Roses, of course, but we do it under the guise, how I can continue my theme of having, sometimes a not GNR person on the show. I get really weird with the sound bites and the theme names, and I shoehorn the reason of how I can do it. Hey, it's been 241 episodes. I've been making it work. You know the deal, right? All right, so Appetite for Discovery, Jason Hall, Western Addiction.
That's the goal. Very appetite
for discovery.
This is my first Appetite for Discovery segment of 2021. And I don't know, as we welcome Jason Hall from Western Addiction on. And first of all, Happy New Year, Jason.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well.
Likewise. So in this segment, we try to find, music that may not be, it's hard to find. Let's just limit it to rock and roll, good rock music, because I don't know, maybe the mainstream media, it's something that rock has always fought against. So we try to find that in Appetite for Discovery, especially punk rock. Love punk rock. On this podcast, this Guns N' Roses themed podcast, of course, when we talk about the spaghetti incident, we cover, they cover a mainly punk rock band, so it's often a topic that gets brought up. So I guess first thing is first, because you had an album that came out early last year. Did that happen when the pandemic? Because I want to catch up with Western Addiction, everything that's happening with this great San Francisco punk rock band, because the album Frail Bray came out in May of last year. Are you still writing?
In May.
Okay, so you're still writing the heels on that, but I don't know if you could say that, because you probably put a lot of plans on hold, right? Because of the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic it completely ate our record. It was like the worst time in the last 100 years probably to release a record.
Yeah, right.
And it just happened that way. I mean, we tried to pull our release date, but it was just too much in the system, because you have to turn it in like 4 months early. And so that would be December or January. And then we didn't really know that things were going to get crazy. You could just feel them getting crazier and crazier. And then I was just like, oh, this is not good.
So what did you, because I mean, the album is out and it's great. And obviously the promotions part and the, playing live part takes I don't even want to say a major hit. It just takes the hit. So how did you, I guess, spend last year, with having new music out and also at the same time staying creative, trying to stay interactive with your fans while not getting cabin fever? Like, how did you kind of balance all of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the dirty secrets of rock and roll is part of it is what you see on stage and the fun part. And then the other part is like an admin job where it's like no one wants to talk about that and no one wants to do it, but it is a big part of it. So it actually timed up just right. And when the record came out, I must have done, 70 interviews. So I'm just doing all these interviews, and I really like doing press, and I like talking about music with, I was excited to come on this one. I love talking about bands, and I listen to music podcasts. And so it lined up right for that. But
true.
I'm also a person that kind of I get anxious, like I don't watch TV and I just try to make things. So I was trying to say, I'm not going to write any songs, but now I'm like 6 songs deep, into the next one. And so I don't have a problem being by myself or making things. And I have an information job where I'm always like typing and thinking. So after hours, I do like to make things. I like to, write songs. I do gardening. That doesn't sound like rock and roll either, but just making and building. And I don't know. I don't have the weird part about the pandemic. I know people are, it's really sick and it's terrible and heartbreaking, but think about in your life when somebody is giving you 1 year to do whatever you want to do, learn whatever you want to do, bake whatever you want to make. You'll never get that time again. And so I see that as kind of a positive.
That's true. That is very true. That's what a lot of people did this year. And that's a lot of people, as I told you when you called, and we had to try to call again because I'm in my apartment in Queens still feeling my quarantine. So it's all, a Jimmy Rig kind of hookup. But so when I initially bought this mixer for my apartment, when I knew I was going to be, when I realized this pandemic wasn't going away anytime soon, they were all sold out because everybody and their mother wanted to be a podcaster. They decided to use 2020 to be a podcaster. So,
oh man, there's so many now. Yeah, you're right.
I know it is what it is. I'm glad I started it before 2020, so I'm a little bit ahead of the curve.
You're ahead. Yep.
I want to know because I'm learning more about you and Western Addiction, even though I know you guys had a little bit of a break between albums, prior to like a few years ago. There was a nice break. But I want to know, because it brings me back to a sound that is missed, I think, a sound like the Damned or, the Dead Kennedys, or just something like old school punk rock sound. So I want to know, what are some of your influences? Who inspired you to create your sound? Especially being from the area, San Francisco, like any homegrown heroes, or where did you find your source to create your, I guess, growing up?
Well, it's funny that people ask this a lot, right?
Sure.
And I of course like all the, the classics like Black Flag and Sex Pistols and all that stuff, and we do sound like an 80s hardcore band. And I heard this quote the other day, and I'm not comparing us to Black Sabbath, who are, one of the best bands in the world, but somebody mentioned that anytime the 4 members of Black Sabbath are together, what comes out is Black Sabbath. You can't do anything else. And so when I started the band, I didn't even plan to be the singer. This is just kind of what comes out of me or the best of my abilities, which isn't great, but it's like this kind of music is just what comes out and what we all kind of really like in the band. But yeah, there are like classics that we love, like TSOL, and I'm not sure if you've heard of this band from Chicago called Articles of Faith, an old hardcore band.
Okay.
Actually, I've never listened to them, but not recently, I heard them, I was like, whoa, they sound like us, which means we sound like them. I had no idea, you know?
Right.
Or we sound like Poison Idea. But I don't really treat influences like that. I mean, I like all those bands, but I think more about songwriters.
Okay.
Because I think about songwriting a lot, and I know that doesn't seem apparent because we're, you know, barking and I'm jumping on people, but I'm thinking of like Paul Simon and Rhett Miller and like these classic great songwriters, and I'm trying to hide that in our music.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I've always enjoyed about, you know, a certain brand of punk. Yeah, you can have the, you know, the quick 2-minute, 3-minute song that doesn't mean much, but a lot of it, I mean, like, I think some of the bands that I mentioned, if you look at the Dead Kennedys, I mean, look at their lyrics. So songwriting is a very underestimated, underrated part of punk rock that I feel often overlooked because of maybe how it appears or how it sounds to the layman.
It's always cloaked in like yelling and political lyrics, but I really think about the bones of songs. And if you play punk, that's all you're kind of allowed, you know. Like I can't play guitar in an insane way. If I could, I would, but I can only kind of make the bones, and those are the most important parts of the song. So I'm thankful for that. And what I try to do with Western Addiction is people call us like a hardcore band, and they also will call us a rock band. And it comes out every once in a while. It's kind of funny. And it's poignant because I'm on the Guns N' Roses podcast, but it's like, I love rock and roll, and I for some reason, there's like different feelings that make your body feel good when you're playing music. And so for example, on our new record, we have a song called Lurchers, and that song is just a classic country Western song, which, you know, country Western is rock and roll, which is punk, which is, you know, metal, which is everything. And so I kind of hide those into what we do. And then I hope it resonates, because you'll kind of feel, when the first time we went to Europe, people, especially in Germany, they were like, your songs are okay, but they could use more melody.
Okay.
It's really funny, which is a nice way of saying, like, you're trying to ride the line, right? Where you want to be a band like The Clash, where you're like hard enough to be heavy, but catchy enough to be liked by all.
Right.
And that's what I'm going for. If you think of Guns N' Roses, exactly what that is.
Sure.
It's like dirty enough rock and roll that everybody likes. It's heavy, but every person can resonate with the melodies that they build into their songs. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. And that's part of what drew me to them, because for, again, me personally, the Venn diagram that makes up my taste in music, punk rock is part of it. And if GNR kind of touches that a little bit, you know, that's in addition to other things that gravitate, like you know, you're mentioning country. They have songs that have elements of that, you know, with you know, obviously the acoustic versions of their songs. So I totally understand what you're saying. So I guess let's just ask the obvious question. What are your thoughts on GNR? Have they influenced you at all? Because I know you're the guys who get together to create Western Addiction, they're going to put out that sound. It's not going to sound like Guns N' Roses, but is that ever, you know, does as a front man, do you ever look at Axl Rose, his approach to it all, or not even just like, maybe not even as a professional, as a fan, like, what do you think of them? Yeah, so
absolutely. So several times in my life, because you reevaluate music as you get older, and it means something different to you, and you're ready for different sounds as you go on. So they've interacted through my life, you know, at different points. I mean, I probably have the same story as everyone, seeing the video on Headbangers Ball. I grew up in a small town, so Headbangers Ball was the only way for me. I wasn't really sophisticated enough to get cool things, so that was the outlet. Wherever I was Saturday night, I had to go. Headbangers Ball was on, and then 120 Minutes was on the next night. And seeing that video for the first time, I was like, what is this? Welcome to the Jungle. I mean, this is scary, and I don't know what it is, but I have some theories on this, because it's like, I'm from a small town. I obviously like rock and roll, but I don't know how to get to the best stuff. Like, I don't know how to get to Johnny Thunders yet. You know what I mean? But there's So you're looking for authentic expression. And when you can't articulate what you want, like I obviously was a person who liked like loud rock. And so I'm like, whoa, I like this. I don't know what it is, but there's something good about this, but I can't speak about it in the right terms. I also kind of had this, I listened to this podcast yesterday with the singer of the Stray Cats, Brian Setzer.
Okay.
And they were talking about like, I'm sure when the Stray Cats came out in the, the 80s, people were like, who are these dudes with their weird coats and their weird hair? But everybody liked them and the punks liked them too. And the reason why is because it's an authentic expression of what you love. And so, of course, it's rockabilly from the 50s, but it's new and it's different. And they are living it and loving it. And so you're like, and if you've watched any live footage of those guys, like them playing the US Festival or something, it's crazy. It's like 3 men on a gigantic stage and they are just destroying. And so with Guns N' Roses, it feels the same way where I'm like, this isn't like Poison. This isn't like Cinderella. I know they're around with those guys, but this is not like that. My body just intuitively knew that. But I didn't know how to talk about it. And weirdly enough, Guns N' Roses was my first like real big concert. I saw them with Brian May.
Okay.
So in Sacramento in like 93.
Nice.
And I was a little older, but not many good bands came to my town. And I'd only been to like the state fair and saw, I think I saw like a country band at the state fair before I saw it. but so, okay. And so when you get later on, and then you look back and you listen to these songs, they stand up and that's how you know music's good. It's like, it has to have great vocal melody. It has to stand the test of time and it has to bounce around in the universe forever. And this is going to bounce around in the universe forever. Appetite for Destruction will bounce forever. And the songs are fantastic. You know what I mean?
I do. Obviously,
okay.
I know what you.
Sorry, sorry. That's a long answer, but it's like it's hard to explain to people why music is good because it gets confused with what is popular, and that's different. Having a hit and being popular, that's fine. That's one thing, but good, long-lasting music, and I don't mean rock and roll. I mean all music. You know what I mean? It has to have these elements baked in, and if you can't tell those elements out of the gate, you're going to have to wait for 20 years, and that's fine. But Appetite for Destruction, people will be talking about that record for the next 100 years. Think about that, you know? You're
absolutely right. So much of today it's music with an expiration date. You know, it's the new thing. It's like Tickle Me Elmo. Yeah, it was good for a couple Christmases. It was popular, but nobody cares about Tickle Me Elmo. I don't know if that's the best analogy to use, but it's not going to be around forever. It's not going to be like the Rubik's Cube. I'm just making up this terrible analogy as I go along.
No, it makes sense. I know what you're saying, and that's okay too. There's pop music for people, and that's fine, but that's not for me, and that's not for you because you're doing this podcast. In terms of Axl specifically, I actually have never been a person that wanted to be on stage. I don't need applause. I'm like the anti that. So it's kind of like interesting to see someone with so much bravado and so much power, and he can sing like crazy, you know, and I can just yell like crazy. So I kind of looked at him in envy, you know what I mean?
Sure. And I think he's supposed to be kind of a shy guy too. It's one of those interesting dynamics and slashes like this I've heard where, you know, they get very nervous even now, but before shows or butterflies. But once they hit the stage, it's like they just know what they have to turn it on. It's like a weekend at Bernie's. They just they're performing. Yeah. You know, they just know how to go. And I want to say this because I haven't seen the new one yet. Your latest album, it's a reference to Bill and Ted.
It's not.
Oh, okay, because I'm reading this article.
No, you're a couple people said that though. It's funny. Oh man.
So what's the story about that? Because I'm reading this article, you know, earlier this year.
No.
Again, it's a new year. Earlier last year about on the New Noise saying there's a winking reference to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Now
No.
You're saying there's not, so I'm heartbroken.
There's not. I told our publicist too. I'm like, what is this? Because I like. She's awesome too. She's like, I don't know. I can't control these things.
So where'd it come from? I mean, it's a good thing to be associated with, I guess.
Well, I mean, I really care about lyrics. Like I think about lyrics deeply, and I know people don't care about lyrics that much. And so there's just a line from one of our songs, and it has some kind of grandiose message in it, and it's similar to like, I didn't know it was similar, but it's something like, what do they say in Bill and Ted's, like, be awesome and go well or something?
Or be excellent to each other.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's from the song called Wildflowers of Italy. And it's like about like, the most good for the most people and doing right in the world. But I didn't use the Bill and Ted's words, but somehow somebody associated with that. And now it looks like I poached some like Bill and Ted's lyrics and baked them into our song, which is sort of embarrassing. But whatever.
That's funny. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm understanding, because the line I guess they got confused is either it's be decent, less evil.
Yeah.
So
that's it, probably.
That's how do they that's I guess another way of saying be excellent to each other, but I don't. I guess.
Yeah. So that was with to see in the press.
All right. Well, I'm glad to continue the theme of non sequiturs to Bill and Ted. That have nothing to do with with anything Western Addiction.
Yeah.
So what can we expect from the future? I know things were kind of crazy. Are you still gonna, for people who aren't aware of the new record, who were kind of distracted by the year that was, are you gonna push forward with Frail Bray, or what's the future for you in Western Addiction?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had lots of shows lined up. We were going to play with Bad Religion. We were going to play with Propaganda. We were on all these big festivals in Europe, and that was last year. All those canceled. Well, actually, they got moved to this year, and then it is not looking good, of course, because people are not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think I just saw the first big festival get canceled. It was Migration Fest or something. And I mean, it's not a huge one like Bonnaroo or anything, but that one got canceled. And you can just kind of feel like it's not going to happen. And the guys in the band really want to play these songs too, because I also should have said another way to please just look at the crowd. And if it's happening, they'll tell you. It's funny when bands continue to play songs where people in the crowd aren't moving, because we have a rule, like if they don't go, it's gone. You know what I mean? And you try to engineer things that people like really respond to, but they don't. I just want to see how some people, we played 2 of the songs live, and people kind of didn't know the songs at all and their bodies were moving. I'm like, okay, that's a good sign. But so in the meantime, I like making songs. I listen to tons of music. My job enables me to listen to, thousands of hours of music. And so I love making songs. So during the pandemic, I just made more songs. I've been making songs, and I'm kind of charting out our next record. And even if it's needed or not, I'm just lucky that my hobby is something I like to do. So making songs is not a chore. It's like a pure joy for me.
Right on. I understand that as well. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what is to come. Obviously, as long as people continue to see Smash Mouth and Vanilla Ice and Steel Panther, who knows? I can't believe this is the world we're living in. Oh, we just want to, God, it's like, obviously, like we all want to go to shows, but just thinking about, bands like yours and your crew that are just like, come on, guys, just stop. Can't we just calm down a little bit and so we can all get back to work and move on with our lives? But it'll happen eventually. And when you are in New York or Long Island, somewhere in my vicinity, I'd love to see you live. We
would love it. I'd love it. I love it when people come up and say hello too. Because I used to work at the record label, so I met lots of DJs, lots of store owners, and every somebody does remember me, and it's so crazy. It's cool. So yeah, I love it. I love being out there.
Cool. Well, let's hope for sooner rather than later. We've been saying that for almost a year, but I'll keep saying it. Jason, thank you so much, and I hope we get to do this again.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the interview, and I appreciate Guns N' Roses. So thanks for having us.
You got it. And Jason, I'll edit this part out. I'm not sure when I'm going to put this out just yet, but I'm going to keep you posted, and I'll forward it to.
Awesome. Yeah. Reach out if you need any extra information or anything. And thanks so much for interviewing me. I appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
All right. Take care.
You too. And that does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. What is to come? Well, the conversation always continues in between the podcasts on social media, facebook.com/The AFD Show, or on Twitter @The AFD Show. Instagram, Appetite for Distortion. Please follow and subscribe to to us on our YouTube channel, Appetite for Distortion. However you listen, iHeartRadio or Spreaker or SoundCloud, Spotify, if there's a place to leave a review, click the subscribe button, please do so. And please tell a friend. And also, if you want to support Appetite for the Distortion, swag, as they say, is available on redbubble.com. So I will see you all, well, I don't know. In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, when is the next episode of the A&B show? You'll see it, but I don't know. As soon as the word.
To the lame ass security, I'm going home.